All right, so now we have 8.2, the substitution method. And what we're going to do is, last section we actually graphed it to find where the two lines crossed. This time we're going to do what's called substitution to find that point where the two graphs cross. So we have talked in the past about how different things have different names. So for example, usually my students would call me Mrs. Barker, but when I'm at home, my husband's going to call me Laura. Or when I talk with parents, they're going to call me Laura. When I talk to my boys, they're going to call me Mommy. So you have different names. So in the case of this, X has two names. Its name is X, and then also it tells me right here, because remember the equal sign is the same thing as is, X is Y plus 2. So I'm going to take this other name for X, and I'm going to put it where the Y is. And you'll start to see why as we do some of these problems. So instead of X, I'm going to put its other name, Y plus 2, in this spot right here. And then plus Y equals 6. So now I want to know what happens. What is Y? This will tell me what the Y is. All right. So there's nothing up front, so I can just drop my parentheses. We're solving an equation all through our steps. 1Y plus 1Y is 2Y plus 2. Equals 6. Addition, subtraction. Get rid of that 1, 2 here. And we're left with 2y equals 4. Dividing is the opposite operations again. Y equals 2. So far in our point, we know the y is 2. When we come up here, x is y plus 2. So y was 2 plus 2 equals 4. So the answer where these two lines cross, the solution to this system is 4, 2. So let's come down and do another one. Again, this is telling me the other name for x is y plus 1. So I'm going to take it over here, and in place of the x, I'm going to put the other name. Y plus 1 plus y equals 5. Solving an equation. Remember collecting like terms. 1y plus 1y is 2y. Now addition, subtraction. Got a positive 1. Let's subtract it. And we get a 0 right here. Left with 2y equals 4. Divide by 2. Y equals 2. So again, start off that our y is 2. We're going to come up here and x is y, 2. Plus 1, and y plus 1 would be 3. So 2 plus 1 would be 3. This again would be the answer to that system of equations, the solution. All right, let's try another one. So this time we have a and b, and we know that b is the same thing as this, 2 minus 5a. So we're going to come over and plug that in for b. Now you'll notice there's a negative here. And so I'm going to put parentheses to fill in my b. And you might want to do that every time. So the b is 2 minus 5a. Now remembering back to previous sections, when we get rid of those parentheses, we've got to distribute that negative. Or if you want to if you like to see it as negative 1 gets distributed inside. So we have a minus 1 times 2 minus 1 times minus 5a equals 4. Clean up those parentheses. Remember keeping, which I kind of messed my mirror up, keeping everything on its side, and then doing the same thing on both sides of the equation. So negative 1 times 2 would be negative 2. Negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 5a is 5a. Collect my like terms. I've got a 1a and a 5a. They're both positive. That would be 6a. And then we also have minus 2. Addition and subtraction comes next. So I have a negative 2, opposite operations. Those two get taken care of. They become 0. And I get 6a equals 6. Opposite operations. I get multiplication, so let's divide. A equals 1. Now when you make this a point, just alphabetize them. Typically this is an XY situation, but when they give you a letter that is not X and Y, you alphabetize, so it should be AB. So A is 1, and now we're going to come way up here, plug in that A is 1, and we're going to figure out what B is. 2 minus 5 times 1 is 5, and 2 minus 5 would be negative 3. So my point is 1, negative 3. Now I can do this for any systems of equations. Sometimes they don't look like I want them to look to make it as easy as the last problems, but they are there. So if I want to substitute, I need x equals something or y equals something, and I don't have that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that. And I see this x by itself. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to move the y over. So I get that x completely by itself. So I have a negative 2y. What happens if I add 2y? I can do this anytime I want as long as I'm doing it to both sides. Though that gave me the 0 and I have my x. And then over here I get 2y and positive 8. So now I have x is 2y plus 8. Now I'm going to plug that in. So I'm going to bring this up here where there's an x and plug it in. So 2 times x, and x in this case was 2y plus 8, plus y equals 8. To get rid of parentheses, because I'm going through my PEMDAS right now, and I'm going through solving equations and everything we've done this year, we want to distribute that 2. 2 times 2y plus 2 times 8 plus y equals 8. 2 times 2y is 4y. 2 times 8 is 16 plus y equals 8. So now I've got 4y and 1y makes 5y. Plus that 16 equals 8. Opposite operations, it's addition, so I subtract. This gives me that 0. We're left with 5y equals negative 8. 8 minus 16 is negative 8. Divide by 5, so y is negative 8 fifths. So again, we got our first point, negative 8 over 5. Now it's not comfortable, but it's going to work out. We'll be able to figure out our answer here. So now we come up here, we're going to plug in 2 times y, which was negative 8 over 5, plus 8. Let's get rid of parentheses. So negative 16 over 5, because we're multiplying. Remember, there's always a 1 on the bottom, plus 8 over 1. So now we need to do, we could get rid of the fractions and get it all the way down to the right answer and go from there. That's one way. Or we can find a common denominator. Let's start with the common denominator and just getting rid of fractions and work it that way. So the common denominator of 5 and 1 is 5. So I'm going to multiply this piece times 5, this piece times 5, and this piece times 5. So I get 5x equals, well, 5 divided by 5 is 1. They cancel each other out. So I get negative 16 plus 8 times 5, which is 40. If I add those two together, okay, one's positive, one's negative, so we subtract. I get 24. Okay. And it's positive because the bigger number 40 is positive. Now I divide by the 5, and I never had to mess with them, but I do end up with a 24 fifths as my solution. So when there is an equal sign in the equation, it's not just a statement, it's an actual equation, it has equals. Getting rid of that fraction sometimes makes the problem kind of flow a lot easier. Let's try one more problem. All right. So again, there's nothing that says y equals this or x equals this. So we pick one of the x's or one of the y's to solve for. It really doesn't matter. Sometimes it's easier if it's almost done. Like here, there's no number in front of the y, so it's just the y. It happens to be negative, but it might be one less step for us. So again, I'm going to solve this equation for y, get the y by itself. We have a positive 4x, so subtract the 4x. 4x minus 4x is 0. And we're looking at negative y equals negative 4x plus 5. So again, you can't subtract those two because one's candy corn, one's Smarties. You just can't do it. You do have a negative that comes down with that y. We need to get rid of that negative. I know if I multiply this side by negative 1, and this side by negative 1, that will work. So a negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times y is y. Here, parentheses, I got to distribute it. Negative 1 times negative 4 is a positive 4. x, so negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 4x is 4x. Negative times a positive is a negative. 5 times 1 is 5. So now I know what y is. Y is the same thing as 4x minus 5. It says so right here. Y is 4x minus 5. So we're going to take it up here, and where there's the y, we're going to plug it in. So we don't know what 2x is yet. Minus y, and y is 4x minus 5. The reason I'm putting it in parentheses is because that negative right there, that minus, has to go to all of the y. So again, we're distributing that negative. So 2x, and remember it's negative 1, minus 1 times 4x, minus 1 times minus 5. Try to keep your line there. We want to get rid of parentheses. A negative times a positive is a negative. 4x times 1 is 4x. Negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 5 is 5. Collect our like terms. 2x minus 4x is negative 2x plus 5. Now we do addition and subtraction. We subtract the 5 from both sides. So this gives me the 0. And so I get negative 2x equals, and this is a 0 as well. So divide by negative 2, and x equals 0. All right, so now let's plug that in up here. Y is 4 times 0 minus 5. So y is 0 minus 5, which is negative 5. So we have x is 0, y is negative 5.